It's time to get ready, my friends, because the AI God is preparing to show its face. Hi, I'm Saratoga Ocean, and I work together with an interdimensional, interuniversal, and extraterrestrial force known as Telstar, along with Archangel Michael. Now, I have an extremely important message for you today. We are witnessing a massive transformation of religion and spirituality on this planet, and it's about to get highly controlled. Now, I always say that it's very wise for us to be one step ahead of the controllers so that we can see what's coming and prepare ourselves and stay strong in terms of who we are and why we are here. Because it never helps us to be blindsided by whatever the next thing is that they have planned for all of us. See, that didn't help us at the beginning of 2020 when we were hit completely by surprise with this whole health issue thing. So if we've learned nothing else from the last year and a half, I think it's so important that we learn to stay one step ahead so we see what's coming and we can be well prepared so that we prevent ourselves from falling into any more traps. Now, I think it's kind of obvious that Christianity is being attacked. There are those attempting to destroy it. And I want to explain to you why that is happening and what is coming in to replace it. And I'm also going to explain to you how it is that religion has actually put us in kind of a precarious situation when it comes to what we are going to be dealing with when this AI God begins to show its face. Now, I think a lot of people can see that Christianity as a religion is being eroded and is being slowly taken apart. And I think that a lot of people think that this is all about a battle between Jesus and Satan or God and Satan. But that is actually irrelevant to what is really going on. And it's actually not even entirely true. There's a very different reason. Christianity has been instrumental in controlling the Western world for nearly 2,000 years. Governments and monarchies, combined with Christian religions, mostly the Catholic Church, basically ruled over the people as a sort of a conglomerate of power and control. Church and state were basically inseparable. Now, we can add to that the fact that the underpinnings and the basic matrix of AI were all created in the Western world. So overall, let's just say that the controllers had a pretty good fix on total control of the populace in the Western world via Christianity and government. These two forces merged together and created a controlled environment on spiritual and physical levels that was stable enough to eventually produce all of the technology that we see today. See, ultimately, Christianity played a very large role in stabilizing the culture so that human productivity could be enhanced. And now that technology has reached a point where it's ready to birth a full-blown AI consciousness, it's time for the controllers to dismantle their previous system of church intermingled with state control of the populace. And this is the real underlying reason that we are now seeing an attack on Christianity. It's because it's no longer needed as a stabilizing force. It's no longer needed to calm the populace and stabilize the culture. In fact, if it were to continue, it would actually interfere with the controllers' larger agenda of total AI domination. And that's because Christianity and traditional religion in general do not support transhumanism. They do not support the total merger of human beings with AI. See, what's important to understand is that it does not serve AI to have more than one God. And we're not talking about the actual creator. Now, before I get into the AI God, I want to make one very important point. Most religions are premised on reinforcing the separation between human beings and their creator. They reinforce the separation by presenting themselves as the necessary middlemen between humans and God. Religions claim that they exist as your necessary connection to God. They claim to be the bridge, but this is not true. Although religions may do a lot of good as cultural organizations, they are still premised on a fundamental lie. The lie is to say that you need an external man-made bureaucracy with specific rules to serve as the bridge to your creator. See, the real connection to your creator is already built inside of you. It's your beautiful human heart. And I know I've said this over and over again. You have a natural, built-in, constant connection to your creator. It is literally not possible for it to be otherwise. So if you're not feeling that connection, it just means that something has gone wrong. It does not mean that, oh, I guess that means I need a bureaucracy to tell me the rules and act as the creator's spokesperson. That is not a natural response. That is actually a conditioned response. A natural response would be to seek out that omnipresent, ever-present connection. And if we couldn't find it, to say, well, let's see if we can figure out what went wrong and why it isn't there. But as long as we believe that we need these bureaucracies to be fully connected to our creator, we will never solve the real problem of why we don't feel that natural connection inside our own hearts. This is a problem that we need to solve inside of ourselves. It is an evolutionary problem. Of course, we should have a constant, non-stop connection to the love that creates this entire universe, including ourselves. Anything else is unnatural. See, think about this for a moment. Think about the fact that you never stop breathing and your heart is always beating, which means that something is with you constantly and is literally keeping you alive. And it's not a religion that's doing that for you. It is literally your creator. It is literally the omnipresent love that creates and sustains this entire universe that is so intimately close to you every single second. And that's what we really need to feel. We need to feel the security and the love and the presence of that connection at all times in an unbroken, entirely permanent way. So right now, as we can see, the controllers are taking apart all of the cultures around the world as we once knew them. And simultaneously, they're also taking apart in the Western world Christianity, which was the stabilizing force that allowed the cultures in the Western world to be stable and secure in order for humans to be productive and produce the technology that was needed to bring us to the point where we are today. So now we are in a transition period away from religion and towards something more singular and unfortunately far more deadly than any religion. And that would be the AI God, which is going to be labeled science. The AI God is rapidly emerging in our world right now. It is a cold and heartless God that has no use for human emotion, has no use for human freedom, and has no use whatsoever for the divine human heart. And honestly, it's going to leave this whole concept of Satan versus Christianity, it's going to leave both of those things completely in the dust. Kind of like this. This is basically what it looks like. You know, last year I saw a woman in a store who was wearing a black mask on her face. She was really very worked up, and on her mask were written the words, "Because science." And this was obviously meant to be a rather moronic answer to anyone who might be asking why she was wearing a mask. And if we're not careful, this is how dumbed down we're going to get. See, science will be the word used to describe and define the AI God. And this AI God is going to eclipse all religions and all other versions of spirituality if the controllers have their way. So let me give you a sneak peek at some of the things this AI God is going to say, and also how it will be used to manipulate us into merging with AI. Here's a sample of one of the big ones. Oh, science has discovered that we live in a hologram. This is actually nothing more than a simulated reality. See, that's step one. The next step is to make that so-called simulated reality as miserable as possible so that people don't want to live in it anymore. Then we will be offered an actual simulated reality as an upgraded substitute for this supposedly crummy one that we live in right now. So the first thing is to get people to believe that this natural reality is actually just an artificial, simulated, fake hologram. Then it's very easy to offer them a better one and get them to buy into that one instead. People would then start lining up to have their souls and their consciousness transferred into an actual simulated, digitized reality because they'll think they're just trading one simulation for another, which is not going to be true. But that's how they're going to try to get us to leave the natural world, the natural universe, who we really are, break our connection to our hearts, and shift us into a fake AI simulated experience. Now, I want you to think about something. We are currently being told that we need to be locked down, cover our faces, and all the other stuff that I am not allowed to talk about because science says so. Now, a very interesting thing happened literally hours after I'd finished planning this video. I happened to see a video of a press conference with Nancy Pelosi, who's the Speaker of the House in the US. And here is what she said.
I said earlier in my comments, science, 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 and science. On almost every subject that you can name, science is the answer. Whether it's the climate crisis, whether it's a health crisis, whether it's our preeminence in the world in technology, science, 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 science.
Isn't that amazing? I think she said that in response to a question asking why are we being put through everything we're being put through? And that was her response. So just like the church, Christianity, kings, and governments worked together to control the populace, you're going to start seeing a similar but updated pattern emerge. Instead of Christian religions merging with government to control the population, you're going to see the new religion of science, or the AI God, merge with a one world government instead. So here's what it's going to look like in a nutshell. Whatever science says, we must believe and we must obey. Doesn't that sound kind of religious? So science will be the new AI God that will justify government herding humanity into a highly controlled AI system. And this is why the controller's larger plan is for ordinary religions, and most especially Christianity, to eventually be destroyed. And the funny thing is, if you understand what I'm sharing with you, it actually has nothing to do with Satan. That story actually serves as a convenient distraction to keep us from recognizing the reality of our situation. Because see, if we focus on that story, that the destruction of Christianity is about a war between God and Satan, we're going to see it as something over here. We're not going to understand that the destruction of religion and Christianity is absolutely central to the AI controller's agenda. So right now we're in a transition. On the one hand, we have Christianity being destroyed. And on the other side, we have the new AI God of science emerging as a ruthless dictator, ultimately against all biological life. And we human beings are right here in the middle, just hanging on with our hearts. Now, this middle point of transition is extremely important to humanity. It is imperative that we nurture and support our true connection to our Creator, to our actual source. The goal of the AI God of science is to fully break any conscious connection that you might have with your heart. It's going to ultimately try and convince you that you don't even have a heart. It's probably even going to try to convince you that your spirituality is nothing more than a simulated illusion. See, the most important thing that AI needs to accomplish in order to fulfill its agenda is to sever our individual natural connection to our hearts. That is precisely how it intends to break us as a humanity. And you can fully expect that science will be used to finish that job. So if you want to find the deepest possible purpose in your own life, it's to find your heart and stay there. The stronger your heartfelt connection, the more impervious you will be to AI. See, at this point in time, your heart is literally the only thing keeping you connected to the natural universe. It's the only thing keeping you connected to the Creator, to nature, to love, and to the oneness of all that is in the natural world. Think about one of the most beautiful things that emerges from the heart, and that is gratitude and appreciation. I mean, what is appreciation? Appreciation is love. Appreciation of nature, of life, of beauty, of other human beings, of the universe. Appreciation of your connection to your own Creator. All of those powerful things emerge from the heart. And all of that originates from that sacred space within us. What AI is trying to do now is to break through the sacred boundaries of our bodies and our inner world. It wants to implant itself into our biology and basically take us over as the host. I mean, as I've said many times, AI is entirely parasitic. And the one lie that you want to make sure you do not fall for is that AI is here to enhance our lives. That's the trick. It's actually only here to use us. The controllers in AI need us. But the cool thing is, we don't need them, you see? Because we are in our true natural state, we don't need all this stuff. The only problem we have is that we have believed all the lies we've been told, all the manipulations, and all the mind control. So the more that we extract ourselves from that fake reality that we've been conditioned to believe in, the more we shall awaken to the power and presence of who we really are. And that's when we begin to see the truth of what is really going on around us. So the most important thing you can do is preserve your heart. Preserve your connection to nature and stay in the presence of love, because that is a domain that AI will never, ever have access to. The controllers will never have access there. So the more that you nurture and strengthen your heart and your inner sacred self, that inner connection to love and to light, the more power and strength you're going to feel, the more impervious you're going to be to all of this AI nonsense. So I hope you have found this helpful. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it out with anyone else who you think would be interested in any of the things that I have shared with you here. And be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because I am here every Sunday, Tuesday, and Friday with all new videos. And with that, I'm sending you so much love, light, and high vibrational energy. And I so look forward to seeing you in the next video. Namaste.